G'day there guys, thought he was really smart as a child because he knew Santa Claus didn't exist here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-hole? It's your host Markee, I hope you enjoy the show. Sit back, relax, and tell me what you think about it. Thank you. Posted by user Fala Monday. Titled, Am I the A-hole for telling my siblings I want nothing to do with our mother's funeral and I won't pay for it? I, 24 female, am the youngest of 5. My siblings are John, Lucy, Nathan, and Erica. Their, and possibly my father, left when our mother was pregnant with me. I say possibly mine because I do not know if he is my father or if another man is. Nobody does really. But anyway, our mother was an alcoholic and neglectful to us. My siblings all cut and run as soon as they could and left me alone with her. They never visited, refused to help me, and rarely called our mother. I was left to face her verbal abuse. I was there to pick up after her. She was not a good mother, and once I moved out, I cut her off completely. My siblings were upset I abandoned our mother. Our relationship has been tense since. I hate that they expected me to look after the woman who pushed me out, because that's all she did. Our mother became ill sometime last year, and in July they were told that she would not make it. I did not see her. They tried to talk me around, but like I told them, I made my peace years ago, and I owed her absolutely nothing. She died very recently, and now they want me to attend the funeral and help pay for it. I said no. They tried to guilt trip me into it, and I told them I wanted nothing to do with the funeral, and I was not going to spend a thing on the woman who treated me like crap. More guilt trips happened, and then I pointed out that I did it alone for 4 years. I had to clean up her puke, bathe her, make sure she didn't hurt herself. I had to clean up puke off myself more times than I can remember. I had to fend for myself all alone. I did my time. I was done. They are ticked, upset, hurting, etc., and I get it. But I don't think I owe them either. They didn't help me when I needed it, so why should I help them now? Am I the a-hole? I'm gonna go with no for this one. I don't think that you would be an a-hole for not financially contributing to the funeral, as well as not showing up in person. You did get abandoned by all of these people in your life, and obviously they've not done anything to reconcile that fact, or apologize, or anything. It's not fair for them to just dump that all on you now and expect you to want to participate. I feel like they don't know you anymore. Keep doing what you're doing. I feel like you are justified in all ways to not contribute, and just do what you have to do to not be a part of this. In my eyes, you are not the a-hole. My siblings were upset I abandoned our mother. Not the a-hole, you didn't abandon her. You moved out as soon as you could, which is exactly what your siblings did. You spent a significant amount of time looking after her on your own. I'd say you've done more than your fair share. OP's siblings abandoned her, and this twisted narrative that she left her mom is probably just so they don't have to face that they left their small sister alone with their alcohol-sick parent. Shame on them. OP is the scapegoat, and the others are upset that she's rocking the boat. Her siblings were raised by a very toxic person, so it's no surprise that they are dysfunctional as well. Definitely not the a-hole, and she's justified in cutting her siblings off if they continue their behavior. Not the a-hole. I think it's hypocritical of them to say that you abandoned her when they left as soon as they could and didn't look back. I would have said no a-holes here because they are also dealing with a neglectful childhood and all the trauma associated. But they have absolutely no right to hound you to be a part of anything you don't want to be. I think you're really strong for standing your ground here. All the best, OP. And this is how I feel. Like, I get they might have forgiven her, and that's great for them. Maybe they care more now. But that doesn't mean I need to. I was left alone with her the longest. I took care of her the most. I do not owe any of them more than I already did. Not the a-hole. You don't owe any of them anything. You've more than done your time and you deserve better. Enjoy your life and be happy on your own terms. Yes, I would not have stayed as long as I did, but I had nowhere to go, and I knew it would be hard to find some place for me to go that wouldn't get CPS involved. You did what you had to do at the time, and now you're doing what you have to do for yourself. You should be so proud of yourself. You're amazing, and don't let those selfish people that are siblings make you think otherwise. Thank you. I did. I did what I could to survive. All I wanted back then was someone to take me away, but I had to do it all on my own, and I am where I am today because of me, not because of anyone else. Posted by user throwaway34053330. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing a necklace with my son's ashes after my husband let his mother take the urn? My son Tom passed away 4 months ago, at the age of 6. He had a heart condition that robbed him of living his childhood like any other kid. He was such an angel, and he loved food so much. I tried to feed him as much as I could because he was so thin and didn't have enough energy to run around and play because of his condition. My husband's family were directly involved in my son's care. They were always there, but they never stayed at the hospital so I could go home and get some sleep. They stopped their kids from being around him. They did not help at all. When my son passed away, they felt free to take his belongings, clothes, toys, blankets, and my mother-in-law insisted to have a burial service, but I chose to have him cremated and kept his ashes in an urn inside my bedroom. My mother-in-law started visiting regularly. She didn't do that when he was alive, just visited the hospital. And she started talking about making ashes pendants for me, my husband, and her family as a way to carry Tom's memory with us and keep him close wherever we go. She told me that my brother-in-law loved Tom so much and wanted a pendant made for him as well. I was stunned, and I didn't know what to tell her. I remember telling her that this was never gonna happen, and that all those family members have their kids with them, and that I was the one who lost his son. She started arguing, talking about how important Tom was to her and the family, and that my husband would agree with this fair treatment instead of keeping an urn in my bedroom and refusing to let the family share their grief. I told her there was no way I'd say yes. She seemed so upset and took it personally, started berating me and talking about how everyone else was trying to show support, and that was the last time we spoke. I got invited to a road trip by my family to help me relieve so much stress. And when I returned after 6 days, I found that my son's urn was gone. My husband showed me a necklace that he said had my son's ashes in it, and pulled out another one that belonged to him that was in the shape of a cross. He told me that his mum made the necklace for me, him, her brother-in-law with our son's ashes, paid money to get it done, and so we could all have Tom with us. I was in a shock. I had to sit down for a minute. It turned out he allowed his mum to take the urn while I was gone, and his defense was that his family cared so much for Tom, and they all deserved to keep a memorial necklace as a way to remember him. I yelled at him that this was my son and not theirs. She had no right to take that urn and do what she wanted with it, especially when I told her no. I was so mad with him. I couldn't even look at him. I took my things and went back to my family and refused to take the necklace that she put thousands on. I called her and berated her for her awful behavior, and told her that she was selfish and inconsiderate for taking my son from me like that. My husband is trying to apologize, but I can't accept that he did this and betrayed me. Well, I feel like it's a clear not the a-hole on this one. I feel like you've been double-crossed by your entire family and by your husband. I don't have many words for this one. I wouldn't trust your husband after this. I would probably start filing divorce proceedings, in all honesty, because that is a huge betrayal of every line. Every line has been crossed in this situation. I don't know, not the a-hole, but I feel really bad for you, OP. I'm so sorry for your loss. Not the a-hole, I would be livid. I would be looking into legal action against mother-in-law, and I would be filing for divorce. I'm so sorry that happened to you. What awful people. And OP says, He actually tried to guilt trip me into accepting by telling me repeatedly how much money his mother paid to make those necklaces, and it's just so wrong. Just so wrong of her to think that she had a right to do this. And it felt like a slap to the face after I told her that I would never give away, not even some of my own son's ashes, no matter what. And I cried just like the time I cried when my son passed away. It felt like I lost him again. It's horrible, and I can't forgive my husband for what he did to me. I hope she's happy. I hope she can now walk around wearing that necklace, just lying and pretending that she cared for my son. I know it's all for show. She did this for show. I could almost swear that she had a different motivation, and it makes me so sick she used my pain to get herself the attention that she wanted. I'd call the home that put all the ashes into the necklaces and ask them if they had any advice on the theft and what their verification procedures were before they took the ashes. Then I'd go and get the ashes back with the threat of police. She stole from you, that was theft, and you have a right to press criminal charges. I just looked up some legal facts about turning ashes of children into jewelry. From what I gathered, funeral homes are required to have the signed permission of the parent or parents in order to do that. And based on the way OP wrote this, I'm going to assume that the husband wasn't Tom's dad. This means husband, hopefully soon to be ex-husband, and mother-in-law committed a crime along with the funeral home. Unless the husband forced OP's signature, which would make him even more disgusting. OP should contact a lawyer first, as the funeral home may very well try to stonewall her once they realize they screwed up. Posted by someone that deleted their account, titled, "Would I be the a-hole if I refuse to go to my daughter's wedding because my wife isn't invited?" I never wanted children. I was always careful, always wore a condom, but somehow I ended up getting my ex pregnant. I begged her to abort or to consider adoption, but she wanted to keep the pregnancy. We ended up moving in together, and I met my wife around the same time. We were in the same friend group, and I was instantly very attracted to her. I guess people call it an emotional affair. I told her about my problems, and she was supportive and believed that if a woman could abort, a man should have the right to walk away. My ex gave birth to twins, and I stayed for the first 6 months, but honestly, I just didn't love them. I didn't want to be a father, the feelings weren't there, and I was becoming very depressed. I hated my life, and I think if I stayed, I would have ended up severely depressed or an alcoholic. My wife graduated around that time and was moving back to California. We were in New York, so across the country. She said I should come with her and start over. She said something that really stuck with me about how if I don't walk away now, I can't do it in 5 years. And right now is the moment to hurt my kids the least. I told my ex that it wasn't working and I didn't want to be a dad. I moved to California and married my wife, but I paid all of my child support, paid for their education, extracurriculars, etc. When the twins were 18, they wanted to meet me, and I felt ready. My son and I built a good relationship, but my daughter hates my wife. She wants her to apologize for telling me it was alright to leave, which obviously, even if she did say that, I made the decision. My daughter is getting married and recently said my wife is not invited. I told her that is incredibly disrespectful and you can't invite half of a couple. She said she's selfish and evil and just said those things so I'd move in with her. I have fully paid for this wedding, which I probably wouldn't have if I knew this ahead of time, but I told her I will not publicly disrespect my wife. I guess there is a reason that you deleted your account name because, Jesus, that's not good at all. She absolutely has the right to decide who goes to her wedding, regardless of if you paid for it or not. Unfortunately, just because you paid for the wedding doesn't mean you get to control who goes and doesn't go. And yeah, you did do your ex dirty and you fled the country early on. That absolutely is your prerogative, you're allowed to do that, but in their eyes you were an a-hole, and you continue to be an a-hole, and you're enabled by your wife now. You don't seem to be doing much redeeming in this situation, and there's not much to say about that. Just purely going by the story, I'm gonna say that you're the a-hole. Are you the a-hole for not going to the wedding if your wife isn't welcome? No. Is your daughter the a-hole for not inviting your wife? No. It sounds like she doesn't have any relationship with your wife, so I can understand why she doesn't want her there. You had the chance to introduce your wife to your daughter for several decades, but decided you didn't want that, so that one is on you. Are you the a-hole for suddenly deciding you want to teach your daughter, the one you abandoned, what is and isn't disrespectful, and who she must invite to her wedding? Well, yes, you're the a-hole. Is abandoned the right word? Yes, he left her and had no contact, but OP paid all the child support and everything he needed to do, not just fall off the edge of the world. I heard a story of a young man forced into something he didn't want, leaving that to have his life and doing everything he needed for the children. It was the daughter's choice at 18 to have contact, not his. As an adult, she must have understood that to want your biological father in your life means having his wife as well. She accepts his money but rejects his life. She's not a child. She would have thought about the implications. If this was me in the OP's circumstance, I would seriously consider their financial help to a child just using him. Edit, for those that are saying that if he didn't want children, he shouldn't have had sex. Really? This is a real life and accidents happen. I'm not saying that child support is using him. The paying for the wedding is how she is using him. This is not child support and is the financial help that I'm talking about. I can't count the number of stories I've heard on this sub and elsewhere that had some variation of, I wish my dad would have left my mum so that all of us could have been happy. It's a sucky situation, but I don't think having an unwilling and possibly resentful father around would have been better. Even if he never took it out on his kids, they would likely pick up on the fact that he's deeply unhappy about the fact that he has a family. This just in, not staying with a romantic partner you aren't compatible with does not mean you cannot still be present in your children's lives. I'm one of the people who wished my parents would have divorced sooner so they'd stop being miserable in the same house. Doesn't mean I was rooting for my dad to F off to nowhere and abandon his kids completely. Amazing enough, some parents actually manage to divorce and still be parents to their kids. Posted by user, Am I the a-hole 50% to? Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I'll go back to work if he doesn't give me 50% of his earnings? I'm currently a stay-at-home mum. I never wanted to be one, but when I had my kid, it broke my heart when I could barely spend time with her due to my work. I wanted at least one parent to be with her while she grows up, and he wanted the same too. So I decided to quit my job. I had some earnings. I could manage for a while. He told me he would support us well. I was earning thrice as much as him, and our lifestyle would take a temporary hit, but we wouldn't be in trouble. When we both were working, we mostly split the chores 50-50, but now it became 100 me and 0 him. I was taking care of the baby, the house, groceries, taxes, walking the dog, cleaning and watering, maintenance, etc. I was beyond exhausted. I asked him for help occasionally, and he made a big show of doing it. Said I'm not going to work anyway, so I should be doing all of this by myself with no help from him. I agree that I should be doing a lot, but not everything. He would act like he was a benevolent god if he washed one dish, and it was getting on my nerves. He wanted me to cook whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. Learn to cook new things for him when he felt like it, to do his laundry and clean up after him constantly, which ticked me off. I also realized I was still paying for most of the household expenses from my savings, and he was barely contributing anything. So I told him that he's treating me like trash, like a live-in maid, and I can't take being ignored and expected to serve him constantly. He told me that this is what a stay-at-home mum should do. So I told him that unless he gives me 50% of his salary for household expenses and baby expenses and contributes to the home at least 25%, I will go back to work. He threw a huge fit about it, and I called up my old job, who had been dying to have me back, and set up an interview. A formality, honestly. They'll take me back with no questions asked. He's sulking, saying I should be home with the baby. I would rather continue to earn and come home to the baby rather than act as his butler. Am I the a-hole? I really don't know. I guess if you're the one in the situation and you know your spouse better than us because you have a history together and you understand the situation better, like we're only getting a surface level, really evaluation of what's going on, then I imagine it's easy to feel guilty about wanting to go back to work and providing like that. But really, you've given us a fair evaluation, and I feel like you've been very transparent in the whole situation here at least. From what you've written, I'm inclined to be on your side about this one, and I really do feel like he's not doing his fair share of work. I mean, it would depend if he's working 12 plus hours a day or not. Man would need his rest then, and you need your rest. But I think it's logical to assume that he's doing 8 hours a day and just being lazy. And that's unacceptable. He's not doing his part, and he's going to have the consequences of you going back to work and possibly having the roles reversed where he goes to take care of the baby. In this situation, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? Go back to work. He is awful. You'll need your income for the divorce, and sadly, you'll end up paying him alimony because you make so much more. Yep, go back to work and let him know he can start doing all the cooking and cleaning. I wonder if she can divorce him before starting her job back to avoid this. This man deserves nothing from her. Edit. Since this blew up, I'd like to say that I'm not usually a supporter of such underhanded behavior, but by what OP has described, she is being financially abused, and I find it repulsive that someone would owe an abuser anything. This. Legal separation, quicker, and her finances are hers and his are his. Not the a-hole. Why isn't he a stay-at-home father if you earned so much more than him? You're not just his free living maid. You actually pay for it. It makes absolutely zero sense. He told me he enjoys doing his job and would get depressed if he left it. I did suggest it to him, but he said his mental health would be affected, so I agreed to quit instead. So he decided that something he thought would be bad for his mental health to do, he would go out of his way to make more difficult and stressful for you. Then he leaves you without money. Then he makes demands like you having to cook whatever he feels like. Then he refuses to do anything around the house, but he wouldn't even consider doing even the childcare because of his mental health. Does he often have his head rammed this far up his own ass? Is he this selfish and controlling in everything that you guys do? Seriously, red flags all around. Please make him take a sick day and be a stay-at-home dad for a day. I guarantee the house would be a mess and he would have a terrible time. He obviously has no idea how hard it is. Alright, that's where I think I'm going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I really do hope you learned something or just really enjoyed the posts that were put up today. Quick shout out to all my new and existing Patreon and channel members. You should be able to see your name on screen right now, and if you don't, then I don't think you're part of the club, and you really should join the club because it's a great club. And I want to thank every single one of you guys for supporting me in this journey. It really means so much to me, and I love you all so much for it. Thank you for helping me out. As you can tell, I'm now happy and healthy back in Australia. Thank God it's not cold like Ireland. I don't like wearing jumpers everywhere. I prefer the heat. Thank you very much. I know that's an unpopular opinion. Anyway, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you later. Bye.